Hello, receiving teachers, receiving students, and 6 is? Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, 6 is and receiving students. Before we go on to our lesson topic for today, let's recap on what we learned in our previous lesson. To the receiving teacher, you can ask your students about what they learned. So 6 is and receiving students, who can still remember the definition, or who can give us the definition for the previous lesson that you learned? What did we learn in our previous lesson? 6 is and receiving students? Quickly. What did you learn in your previous lesson? Okay, you should be having your name tags on.
Fractions.
Louder.
Fractions.
Fractions. Is it correct? Okay, let's have another answer. Good, she said fraction. Let's see what our other friends have in mind to say to the class. Okay, let's have Oa.
Shapes.
Our friend at the end, who's this? Taylor gave us an answer which is on what? Fraction. Can you still remember what you learned in your previous lesson? Did you learn something on fractions? Yes, that's what you learned in your previous lesson. Now, who can give us the meaning of fraction? It should be still fresh in our minds. What is fraction? To the receiving teacher, you can ask your students to give you the meaning of the word fractions. 6 is, what is fraction? It can be a word. If you can't say the whole meaning, you can just give me one word or two. Who's Fred?
A part of a whole thing.
A part of a whole thing. Very good. This is the answer that I am expecting you to say back to when you are being asked. Fraction is part of a whole. So to the receiving students, recapping, fraction is part of a whole. Now, you were doing some activities on folding strips of paper. What were the fractions that you came up with after folding the strips of papers? Who can still remember the fractions that you have formed? 6 is and receiving students, what were the fractions that you have come up with after folding the strips of papers? Oa?
Half.
Half, is it correct? Yes, you have come up with a fraction by after folding the strip of paper in half. What are the other fractions? Okay, my friend up here.
1/4. 1/4.
Okay, 1/4, is it correct? Okay, that was another fraction that you have come up with. On air?
One whole.
Come again, sorry.
One whole.
Okay, 1 whole, is it correct? Yes. You started off with a piece of paper as 1 whole. That's the starting part of the strip of paper. What is another one? Jason.
1/8.
Okay, he said 1/8. Is it correct? Yes. Yes, that was the other fraction that you form out from the strip of paper. Now, for today, we are going to be also folding strips of paper to come up with some other fractions that we need to complete our chart. So on your tables, I have placed 4 pieces of strips of paper. I'd like you to work in groups. 1 piece of paper, I'd like you to fold it into 5 parts. And the other one, you fold it into 3 parts. So I'd like you to share the paper among your group. Maybe 2 students can use 1 strip of paper to fold it into 3 parts, 3 equal parts. And the other paper, the other students can fold it into 5 parts. So I will give you less than a minute and then I will stop you. Fold it into 3 parts and also in 5 parts. You have 4 pieces, so 1 can be used for 2 different pieces. Did I give you small papers? Why? The paper must be the original paper that I gave you from the beginning of the lesson. I don't want to see paper being torn into half or tear into half. Okay? Can we stop now? Who has come up with the paper being folded into 3 parts? 3 equal parts. Which group? Stop whatever you are doing. Erwin, did you fold your paper into 3 equal parts? Stop whatever you are doing and let's check around to see which group have fold this. Okay, let's hear from Emmanuel. Did you come up with 3 equal parts? Okay, can you demonstrate to the class how you have fold the paper? You show to the class how you have fold the paper. Okay, let's have a look at Emmanuel now. He's showing to us how he has fold the paper in 3 equal parts without using the ruler to get the measurement. Okay, did you see how he folded the paper? He folded one end in first, then the other one, and he made adjustment to see that he has come up with the equal sizes. How about the strip paper into 5 parts? Who has come up with the strip being folded into 5 parts? Okay, let's have Rupa. Okay, let's have a look at what Rupa have come up with. Show it to the class. Did you do anything to come up with those measurements or the 5 parts? Is it five equal parts? Yes? Okay, quickly bring it over here and let's have a look at it to confirm that it's 5 equal parts. Okay, Rupa has also come up with 5 equal parts. But it's not really equal. There's still one part of it sticking out. So 6Cs and receiving students, can you see how difficult we find when we try to fold to find equal parts of these 2 numbers, 3 and 5? Did you find difficulty folding to find 5? Yes or no? Were you able to fold it to find the 5 equal parts? 6's? He was able to, but one part of the paper was still sticking out, meaning it's not all equal. So to the receiving students, folding a paper into 3 parts and also into 5 parts will take a while, and also it will need measurements so that you can equally divide the paper so that you can fold. So I'd like the class now to fold these papers into 3 equal parts and also 5 equal parts. This one is equally divided and prepared for you to fold. Okay, the first paper you have to fold it into 3 equal parts, following the dotted lines. Do not sit down and wait. As soon as you get the paper, you start. Pass back to the other. Extras, okay, thank you. You all have one each. I will be also passing out the other strip of paper. You'll be folding that into 5 equal parts. The same that you will do for folding it into 3 parts, you do the same with the second strip of paper, but this time you fold it into 5 parts. Have you all finished? Those group who have finished, I'd like you to sit up straight. And write what part of the fraction that you have formed in those folded pieces. like what you have done in your previous lessons activity. Having in mind the first strip of paper, you have divided that into 3 parts. The second strip of paper, you are to fold along the dotted lines to come up with 5 equal parts. Okay, you should be finishing by now. Put your hand up if you have finished folding those 2 strips of paper. Okay, to those who haven't finished, I'd like you to quickly fold those. I'll just give you another minute. Don't forget to write what fraction you have formed out from those 2 strips of paper. Okay, you should have finished by now. Sit up straight if you have finished. Okay, 60s and receiving students. For the first strip of paper, you have divided that into 3 equal parts. Now, who can give us the fraction that we have formed from folding that strip of paper? Having in mind, you have divided into 3 parts. What do we call each part of that folded strip? Fred, loud and clear. To the receiving teacher, you can also select a student in your class to give an answer of what fraction they have come up with.
1/3.
Okay, Fred has come up with a fraction 1/3. Put your hand up if you have come up with a fraction 1/3. Very good. So the first strip of paper, you have folded that into 3 equal parts. So each part of that strip of paper should have been written as 1/3 in each of the spaces or the part that has been folded. So 6Cs and receiving students, you should have come up with this 1/3 written in each of these square or rectangle. How about the second strip of paper? Okay, let's have a girl this time. Samantha?
One-fifth.
Come again, loud and clear.
1/5.
Okay, Samantha has folded a strip of paper and she has come up with the fraction formed from each of those folded parts, which is 1/5. Put your hand up if you have come up with 1/5. Okay, very good. To those students who have folded their strip, you should have something like what I have here on the whiteboard. Okay, 6Cs and receiving students, I'd like you to have a look at these strips of paper that I have on the whiteboard. 6, group 8 at the back. Are we listening? Have a look at this chart here. What can you say about the chart? In your previous lesson, you did 1 whole, half, 1/4, and 1/8. Today we folded another 2 strips of paper into 1 into 3 parts and the other one into 5 parts. What can you see from these strips of paper now? 60s and receiving students. Can you see any change from there? Discuss within your group. What can you say from these strips of paper that we have now put them all together? You have students among your group. You can discuss with your friends quickly. Irene, did you have your hand up? No. Sixes, can you notice any difference from this strip of paper? Maybe the color is one. Can I have your attention now here on the whiteboard? What do we have at the beginning? One whole. How about the second strip? The paper being divided into half. Today we divided the paper again into how many parts? Into how many parts? 3 parts. Then you have 1/4 and also you have 1/5. This one now the chart is complete. We still yet to complete 1/6 and 1/7. That's why we have the space there. For today we will only concentrate on these 2 fractions here in order for us to complete this. So we have 1 whole, half, that is 2, into 3 parts, that's 1/3, 1/4 and 1/5. So can you see now that the chart is complete using the strips of paper? So in your previous lesson you had something like this. So we have 1 whole, half, it's blank, and now I will put what the fraction that you have formed to complete the fraction wall. And we have 1/5 here. So this is what we have come up with. That's the same on the other chart. Okay, you have done those learning activities. We have also important parts of a fraction. You have written the fractions using the numbers here on this strip of paper. Do we really know what the names of these numbers are from those fractions that you have written? So 60s and receiving students, I'd like us now to look at what is being prepared on the PowerPoint. We shouldn't be writing parts of a fraction. The top number here is called, again 6 is numerator. The line in the middle is known as the fraction bar. The bottom number below the fraction bar is known as denominator. Those are the different names of or parts of a fraction. You might be given fractions and they might ask you, give me the name of the top number or the middle number or even the bottom number. So those are the important names or parts of a fraction. Okay, you have divided the strips of paper into 3 parts and also into 5 parts. Now, you have also given me the fraction 1/3 and also 1/5. In our lesson for today, we will be also drawing diagrams to represent fractions. There are other ways of describing fractions also. So I'd like you in your groups quickly draw a diagram to show these two fractions. You have 1/3 and 1/5. So those are the two fractions that you will be drawing diagrams to represent 1/3 and 1/5. I'd like you to use a block or a rectangle, and then you divide that into 3 parts. I'd like you to work in groups. It's not individual activity. You work as a group first. You have folded that. Now I would like you to draw. So you draw diagram to show these two fractions that you have formed from the strip of paper. Maybe you can use the same strip of paper and you come up with what it should be done as in a form of diagram. How is 1/3 when you are using a diagram or a picture? Also, the other diagram, you are to draw it so that it shows 1/5. Which group have finished? Okay, you should have finished by now. It has to be done as a group. Draw a rough sketch showing a diagram of 1/3 and 1/5. So 6Es and receiving students, this is what you should have come up with. The fraction 1/3, you have come up with 3 parts being folded. This time the diagram is shaded. One part of the 3 equal parts have been shaded, and this represents 1/3, and the bottom diagram is being divided into 5 parts. One part of the 5 part is being shaded, and it gives us 1/5. So this is what you should have come up with as in the form of a diagram. The lesson topic for today is describing fractions using diagrams. Okay, looking upon the PowerPoint, fractions can be described using number lines, symbols, diagrams or pictures, using words, and also in worded problems. These are some of the ways to describe fractions, not just by using numbers, but as you go along to other grades or higher grades, you'll be using some of these to describe fractions. For today, you will be using diagrams. You'll be drawing diagrams to show fractions. So I have shown to you the 2 examples on 1/3 and 1/5. Okay, you have one exercise that is on the board. It should be very easy after looking at the example that has been shown. You have here on the PowerPoint, draw diagrams to represent these fractions. The first one, 1/7, B, 2/6, and C, 4/5. Work in pairs to come up with your 3 diagrams showing these fractions here. I will give you 5 minutes to get those 3 complete. You can freely use your pencil to draw that in your exercise books. If you are not sure on what to do, you can raise your hand up so that I can come and explain to you what you need to be helped on. Remember, when we are drawing diagrams, we use pencils. Okay, some students have finished the first one. They are now working on the second one. Those others, quickly.
This one, lagi masih ada sini.
Where are your diagrams? Is that for the group? Okay, one group have drawn the 3 diagrams. Some other students have completed doing their own, which is good. For those who haven't finished, I'd like you to complete that for homework. It should be very easy.
Yan po si lesson topic po.
So most of the students have finished. I'd like those students who haven't completed, do complete that neatly in your books. And I'll be collecting your books for checking and also marking. So to the receiving teacher, you may do the same with your student. Collect their books and check to see that they have drawn diagrams to represent the three fractions that have been given as their exercises. 6 is, I'd like you now to put your biros down and let's go through the summary point. All eyes on the PowerPoint. 6 is, fractions can be described using number 1, together, diagrams or pictures, using words and worded problems. So you might be coming across some of these ways that you will be using to describe fractions. Our key phrase for today is fractions. We've been writing a lot of fractions. To the receiving teacher, our next lesson topic is on equivalent fraction number 1. Materials needed for the lesson is 2 strips of paper, 1 being divided into 5 parts and the other one into 10 parts. I will repeat, 2 strips of paper. 1 strip of paper, I'd like you to divide that into 5 parts, and the other strip of paper, you divide that into 10 parts. With that, receiving students and 6Cs, we have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you for your participation.